Part of yesterday's exercise, I want to know, all of you were able to set up a Salesforce environment and do the exercise we had discussed yesterday?
Yes, yes. Yes, sir.
किसी को भी कोई प्रॉब्लम आया जो इशू हुआ या नहीं कर पाए या कोई क्वेश्चन आया, डाउट आया, तो वो पहले हम डिस्कस कर लेंगे. नहीं? नो वन?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, that's good. That's good. ठीक है. So now we'll continue from where we had stopped yesterday, right? We had learned a bit about just basics about the Salesforce object. What is an object? How do we create an object? Then we have something called Salesforce field. How do we create a field, right? Now today what we will do is go into a lot more detail of object. All of you guys, let me know once my screen is visible. आप लोगों को मेरा स्क्रीन दिख रहा है?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Salesforce का स्क्रीन दिख रहा है, right? Yes, good. तो अभी right now we are inside the sales app. Okay. Now, since we were working yesterday with an object, right? We created an object which was the employee object. I'll just go to that object. Right. This is where we had stopped yesterday. Now, what is the situation when I get a requirement about this object? No one wants just an object in the backend. This object should be visible on the UI, right? हम एक ऑब्जेक्ट बना रहे हैं तो वो ऑब्जेक्ट तो ऐप में यूज होना चाहिए. तो उसके लिए हमको कुछ फंक्शनैलिटी प्रोसेस करना पड़ेगा. वी हैव टू डू अ फ्यू स्टेप्स सो दैट दिस एम्प्लॉय becomes visible here. We want that as part of our requirement, right? So let's focus on that part first. For that, what we need to do is we need to set up inside the admin part of our role where we have to configure the object, and there is something called tab which we have to create. Okay, so that we will do now. एम्प्लॉय का हमने ऑब्जेक्ट बना लिया है, बट यूआई पे दिखाने के लिए आई हैड टोल्ड यू दैट दीज आर एक्चुअली कॉल्ड टैब. So we need to create a tab for an object. Nothing is right now created since our object is a custom object. So we click on custom object tab. Now you see here, since we have already created a custom object, it is showing us here that you still have not created a tab for this object. You can now create it. So the object I'll select as employee. Tab style is something, let's keep it default for now. This is just a UI part. We will work on this later on. Custom tab for employee custom object. Oh, I did not select anything, is it? Okay, I'll just select person. User. Anyone see here something which seems like a person? Okay, nothing as of now. No issues. Right. Now, this tab, what do we want this tab to be visible? We want for this tab to be visible to everyone in Salesforce. कि बाद में हमारा जो जो Salesforce में लॉगिन करेगा इस Salesforce environment में, उन सबको ये टैब दिखना चाहिए. Which is why I keep the visibility as default on. We can configure this also. We can make this hidden for everyone. Or I can individually configure who all can see the users. मेरे को खाली एडमिन लोगों को टैब दिखाना है, बाकी सबको मेरे को हिडन करके रखना है. तो इस टाइप का कस्टमाइजेशन हम लोग कर सकते हैं. अभी के लिए आई विल कीप इट एज डिफॉल्ट ऑन. Now this step is the step where any admin, when they are creating any app, they have to configure things. What I want is employee should be visible inside sales, but not inside service. That is something I only want inside sales. तो जैसे ही मैंने टैब बनाया, यहाँ पे आप देखिए जितने Salesforce apps थे यहाँ पे, if you check it yourself, when you check it yourself, you can compare all the apps present here are present here, and I can configure individually which app I want this to be visible in. So I'll only make this available inside the sales app. Now inside service, it is not there. But here in the sales, we need to see that it is added, right? Now what has happened here is, in this list you see, it is not visible right now, right? It is still not visible here. Why? This menu we have to configure. More items and employees I have added, and I want it to be visible just after accounts. Or one thing, I just want it to visible after home. The first thing I want is employees. Save. You see here, now employees are visible on the UI. This is how, once you create a Salesforce object, you can actually use it. In the backend, employee was created. लेकिन आपको अगर नया एम्प्लॉय का रिकॉर्ड बनाना है, डेटा का एंटर करना है, कहाँ से एंटर करोगे? तो उसके लिए we need it inside an app. So these are the steps when you include a custom object into the Salesforce. I go to employees, all employees. Right now there is nothing present क्योंकि अभी तक हमने कोई डेटा बनाया नहीं है. तो अभी हम लोग क्या करेंगे? This is the first employee record we will be creating now. Now you have to realize, when we created the employee object, we made a few custom fields, right? Department, employee ID, employee name, and owner ID. So sorry, these are the two we created and these are the standard ones, right? Now, as part of yesterday's exercise, I had asked you guys to also create a few other fields: first name, last name, date of birth, and email, phone number, all those fields, right? I'll also create those fields, but we will also learn something about the UI, how the UI changes when we create. अभी के लिए हमारे पास ये fields है. मैं जाके अगर बनाता हूँ यहाँ पे new, anytime you have to create a new record, right? It is same. I have to create a new employee. I'll go to the employee tab. I'll click on new. मेरे को नया account बनाना है. I'll go to account. I'll click on new. So this is fixed. So I'll go to the employee tab for now and click on new. Now you see here, the fields which we have added in the system are now visible. This is where we enter the data. Let's add test employee 1, employee ID is 1, and this would be HR. Save. An employee record got created. What if I want to create another employee? I'll just go here, new, test employee 2, and employee ID I'll have 2. Actually, let's do one thing. What if I add employee ID as 1 and click on save? Now what happened? There is an issue in our system. We have two employees and both of them have employee ID as 1. अभी हमारा जो ऑब्जेक्ट है डेटा भी एंटर हो चुका है, लेकिन for a client, for a user who is using this app, now we will have to think like a Salesforce admin. Someone who is using this app, he can't see any data here other than the employee name. Is this a good UI where the user cannot see the data? The department should be visible, the employee ID should be visible, but it is not visible. So what do we do? There are a few things which we can modify here. This setting of this view, I go there, select fields to display. Now you see only employee name was visible previously. I add department here, I add employee ID here. Actually, let me put employee ID before. Employee ID, employee name, department. And when an employee joined, I want that also visible. Now is this a better UI than before? This UI change I did is based on an requirement that can come कि आपका एडमिन रोल जब रहता है आप लोग खाली ऑब्जेक्ट नहीं बनाओगे, आपको ऑब्जेक्ट बना के सेल्सफोर्स में ऐसे ऐड करने हैं ताकि दूसरे लोग उनको यूज कर सके, वो डेटा देख सके, वो डेटा बना सके. How will they create data? We have to enable the Salesforce tab. From the tab they can go and they can create this. Then how do they see the data? I create this filter where whatever data I have to show in the UI, I'll display that here. Right? So this UI where I have modified this is called list view in Salesforce. In Salesforce admin, when we have configuration for what all data we have to show. So sometimes requirement we can have multiple requirements. So based on that we may need to show multiple view. किसी को ये चारों चीजें नहीं देखनी है, किसी के लिए एम्प्लॉय आईडी हमको नहीं दिखाना है, हमको खाली दिखाना है नेम और डिपार्टमेंट. तो अब सबके रिक्वायरमेंट के अकॉर्डिंग हम अलग बना सकते हैं, तो उसी चीज को हम कहते हैं लिस्ट व्यू इन सेल्सफोर्स. और लिस्ट व्यूज आप कहाँ पे देखोगे? जब भी आप एम्प्लॉय में जाओ, किसी भी आप टैब पे जाओ, यू कैन सी this first one is the default, which is called recently viewed. You can go to any tab in Salesforce, the default one will always be recently viewed. What does this show? आपने एज ए यूजर लास्ट कौन सा खोला था वो वाले आपको ऑर्डर में दिखेंगे. तो अभी तक हमने हमारे सिस्टम में कोई अकाउंट नहीं खोला है, कुछ नहीं खोला है. व्हाट इफ आई गो टू ऑल अकाउंट्स? दिस इज एक्चुअली द लिस्ट ऑफ ऑल अकाउंट्स. अभी मैंने कोई एक अकाउंट खोल दी. अभी अगर मैं जाऊंगा रिसेंटली व्यूड में, मेरे को खाली वो एक दिखा रहा है जो मैंने यूज किया. सो रिसेंटली व्यूड इज अ डिफॉल्ट विच इज एप्लीकेबल फॉर ऑल यूजर्स. अदर देन दैट, नाउ वी हैव ऑल इज ऑल्सो अ डिफॉल्ट जहां पे आपका सारा डेटा आ जाता है, कौन कौन से आपने क्रिएट किए थे वो सब आ जाता है. राइट. आई विल गो टू द रिकॉर्ड. नाउ यू सी हियर, अभी मैंने टेस्ट एम्प्लॉय 1 का रिकॉर्ड खोला है. राइट. नाउ वी आर कॉन्फ़िगरिंग द यूआई ओनली, कि अभी ये मेरा यूआई है. किसी ने मेरे को बोला कि नो आई डोंट लाइक दिस यूआई, मेरे को ये दो तीन एक तरफ एक एक तरफ ऐसा नहीं चाहिए. आई वांट द पेज टू बी यूनिफॉर्म. यूआई शुड बी ऑलवेज यूनिफॉर्म. सो हाउ डू वी कॉन्फ़िगर दैट? That is something in Salesforce which is called a page layout. Where you will configure that page layout? As we had discussed previously, any object related things you configure inside setup. So let's just go to setup. You go to the employee object and here you see directly below fields and relationship is page layout. Let's go to page layout. This is an employee page layout. ये आपको जो UI में दिख रहा है वो Salesforce में saved है as a page layout. You see here, employee name, ID, department this side, owner this side, which is as per our use. मैंने एडजस्ट किया, I click on save and I just refresh. The UI got updated. इसी तरह से आप जब भी किसी ऑब्जेक्ट को लेके काम करते हो तो उसका हर एक ऑब्जेक्ट का, इफ आई गो टू एनी अकाउंट, दिस इज एन अकाउंट आई हैव गॉन इनटू, इसका ये जो पेज लेआउट है मेरे को कॉन्फ़िगर करना है। आई गो टू अकाउंट, अकाउंट का भी पेज लेआउट रहेगा, ये देखिए। नाउ हियर इज अ कोड डिफरेंस, इट हैज मल्टीपल पेज लेआउट। ये भी आप सिनेरियो है, आप क्रिएट कर सकते हो। तो वो हम जब प्रोफाइल्स देखेंगे दैट टाइम वी विल कॉन्फ़िगर, बिकॉज द यूज ऑफ दिस इज व्हाट आई हैड मेंशन्ड बिफोर, डिफरेंट यूजर्स मे नीड डिफरेंट व्यू। किसी को एक फील्ड दिखाना है, किसी को एक फील्ड नहीं दिखाना है, so that is done using page layouts. For now, let's go back to employee page layout. Now here you see how you edit a page layout. Now inside this, if I go to the employee page layout, you see here, other than the UI, there are few buttons which are also available. Okay. Edit is just the default edit. आप इसको click करोगे, you can update the data. Okay. अभी यहाँ पे जो चीजें हैं, these are more related to रिलेटेड ऑब्जेक्ट्स, कि आप एक ऑब्जेक्ट के साथ किसी और ऑब्जेक्ट को अगर लिंक करना चाहते हो तो वो हम यहाँ से कर सकते हैं। तो वो हम जब रिलेशनशिप्स पढ़ेंगे बिटवीन ऑब्जेक्ट, दैट इज व्हेन वी विल फोकस ऑन ऑल दिस, लाइक हाउ वी कैन क्रिएट अ कॉन्टैक्ट which will be linked to the employee, how we can create an opportunity which will be linked to the employee. For now we just want to focus on one thing, how you can change this UI, you can also change this menu कि मेरे को क्या क्या फंक्शनैलिटी प्रोवाइड करना है, एंड अगेन you see this inside this page layout only. Now the default is always set up by Salesforce, but here you see actions in this section are predefined, you can override. Now when as soon as I click on override, I see यहाँ पे देखो कितने सारे ऑप्शंस हैं, और ये सारे ऑप्शंस यहाँ पे दिखेंगे, न्यू अपॉर्चुनिटीज, ये सब यहाँ पे दिखेंगे। मुझे ये सारे नहीं दिखाना है, I'll remove each of this one by one. I just want for now edit and nothing else. Now these things are what are called the point and click functionality of Salesforce. Okay, the coding functionality is something obviously you write code Salesforce like Apex, JavaScript. Okay, but most of the functionalities for a Salesforce admin are actually just point and click. आप लोग just use करोगे जो already Salesforce ने feature provide किए हैं, design करोगे, and actually let's keep delete also, and I'll click on save. Let's check it now. You see, I configured the buttons also on the page along with the UI. You can configure all these things. The next thing here we will learn is what if I just want to display things. अभी यहाँ पे मैं कुछ भी edit कर सकता हूँ, मैं नाम edit कर सकता हूँ, ID edit कर सकता हूँ, department edit कर सकता हूँ, लेकिन should an employee be able to change his identity, employee ID, yes or no? What do you think is a proper approach in this scenario as a Salesforce admin? Should you let a employee let him edit his own ID? He should not.
No.
So this edit here is actually an error. As an admin, you should not allow this.